Hello, and welcome back to our series where we are building a people and culture management system. This series is brought to you by Prairie HR Solutions. My name is Jake Finger, founder and principal consultant here at Prairie HR Solutions. And in this video, I want to address a question that we received on adding some functionality to this. And, it's a great idea. When we started this out, it was really just to show how to create this through app script and whatnot. And it wasn't designed to actually be fully functional. But the question that came in about scalability and adding functionality made quite a bit of sense. And if we were doing this as an actual product, this definitely would be something that we would uh, obviously include because without this, it wouldn't be a full analysis. So we would have to actually drill in. And what that question was if there was a way or how we could, or if we could show a way to add in um, job levels initially and then employee numbers to where we can drill down and actually search by an employee. Now, it's only going to be one dot here, of course, but this data will populate for one employee. So what we did was we took that and also added states as a filter and functional families as a filter. Now, functional family, you know that we have obviously our let's just say manager. Well, a manager can be a manager of quite a few different things, industries, and subordinate job titles. So that's where this functional family comes in. This functional family can be broken down further into something such as industry, which is what we pretty much broke it down into: financial industry, human resources, the major groupings, as opposed to just straight up managers. So we added the functional families in here as well as states. So what I did was essentially copied our drop down boxes here and created four of them. And what we're wanting to do is have these populate in the same manner that we have these populate. Now this is going to have to be broken up into more than one series because we need to just get this stuff here functional as far as the drop downs being populated goes. And we're also going to do a little bit of consolidation, and you'll see the reason why here in a bit. But we're going to work on consolidating things just so we don't have functions doing the same thing over and over and over. So let's go over here to our employee database here. And what I've done was I created over here at the end two new drop down level data pieces here. So for our functional family category, we have things like analytic, back-end developer, front-end development, full stack, our licensed trade, our unlicensed trade, physical security, HR, all those. And then in the next level, I've created this job level. Now this is going to be this. There is no one simple solution for this, and one size doesn't fit all, so to speak. This is really based on how your workforce is structured. So the concept of this is the job level one is, those are those entry levels. Level five are those department or divisional heads, right? Um, Reporting directly underneath the executives. And then, of course, three would be like mid-career too. It all based on how your company is organized as far as workforce, career pathing, training, things like that. A lot of this information here, actually, all of this information here should be coming from your position descriptions. And since the position description is a summation of your job analysis, the job analysis is really where this is harnessed from. So our idea is to take this, just like we did everywhere else, and populate this in our drop downs. And we want this to be dynamic. We don't want to hard code it. We want this to be dynamic to where if we change this or add on to it, then it'll automatically update the next time that page is refreshed. So if we went over here to our code, you'll see that we have these drop down boxes, and I've given each one of these drop down boxes an ID, of course. And you'll also notice that these drop-down boxes are calling the same exact function as our division on our job title. And we're going to use that function to build out this functionality here. So right now, it's not a drill down effect, so to speak. It's just you can filter by division, or you can filter by job title, or you can filter by functional family and job level. That's what we're going to work on now. Drill down is a different functionality to where you have division, and then in that division you would have these job titles, and those job titles you would have functional families, and that can get pretty complex. But for now, all we're going to do, easily done. It just is a little bit more complex, and we're trying to keep this as generalized as possible with enough foundational code snippets to where you can modify that to meet that need if you needed to. So let's first work on our functional family. So this is our ID. We're going to remember that, comp functional family. Now what we need to do is we need to come up here to our JavaScript code and figure out how to trigger that, how to load that. So what we have here is we have a series of Google script runs. We have the division, the job, and the demographics. So what we can do to get this working, functional right now, is to add it again, and we are going to condense all of this after we get our function going. So this won't be get comp demo. Let's do get comp, let's just say functional family. Well, it's kind of long, but is what it is. So what we need to do now is create this over in our Google Apps Script side. So we can come over here to our analytics, and you see we have our comp div, our comp job div, comp demo. So let's go ahead and just add it right here. And what we're wanting this to do is to come over to our spreadsheet here and grab this column and include however many rows have data in it. We don't want this to keep going. And then return that as a two-dimensional array. And we've done this already with our comp div data, our job data. So what we can do is just grab this right here and reuse it with some tailoring. And we won't call this division last row. Let's just call this FF for functional. No, let's spell that out. Functional family, if I can spell it correctly. And then instead of having it go to our web app data, which is that tab, and get the range of FF1 to FF, what we need it to do is to come over here and get AC all the way down. And then what we can do is after we have those values, we can find the last value with a string in it, and then use that as our length to populate. So this is not going to be F, this is going to be AC, and this is going to be AC. And then we want to get the values of that. And then once we get the values of that, we want to filter it by the string and then find the length of that filtered piece. So we need to grab this, and instead of our division last row, this is going to be our functional family last row, this variable. And then let's just rename this as functional family last. And then we'll call this functional family dropdown. So this is actually going to come in handy right here. So what we're doing, now that we have the length of this, at least the length of the strings, how many cells we have strings in, we want to go back to that web data, get the range. Now this range has to be that column, this AC. We'll start at row 2, starting at column 6, well, we don't want column 6. What we want is whatever column this is. Now remember, this is straight columns, not index. So it's 29. So what we can do is come back over here, and instead of column 6, we want to start at column 29. Now we don't want to get the last division. We don't want that because that belongs up here. What we want is this variable right here, because this variable contains the length. So now let's do some logging to show you exactly what happens. So let's first log out our functional family last variable, and this is only going to be a number. Actually, first let's just log out everything. Let's do logger log. I want to take the time to show you how this is working. And then we will logger log functional family dropdown. Okay, so let's save this, and then we'll run this function here, and then we'll look at the logs. Functional family last row is not defined. Okay. Now it is. Okay, here we go. So now you can see that this first piece is getting the last row. It's essentially getting everything in that column. So there is a lot of white space here. And what it's doing is it's going down to the last row of data that exists within that tab. So essentially it's going down to probably our states here. So it's going down to the last row here and then filling it up with blanks. And so we don't want that. We don't want our drop down to have a bunch of empty spaces. So then we created our filter. Now this filter is simply going to find the length of this array that has data in it. So you'll see that there is 16 pieces in here that have data in it. And then what we do is then we go back and look at that web app data, get the range 229, which is that column. And then instead of going down to the last row, we are only going down to however many string values are in there. So we're only going down to the length of this. And then we're getting the values, which will clear up all of our empty spaces or empty white spaces here for our dropdown. Okay, so now we have this. We don't want to log this. What we want to do is return it. So let's return our functional family dropdown. So now what we need to do is go back over to our JavaScript file on our client side and intercept this, because this is getting sent. We just now need to do something with it. And where it's getting sent to is our pop comp functional family data. So let's copy that and we'll create that. And we'll create it right here after our demo. So now what this is going to take is, let's just call it FF for functional family. And now what we need to do is populate that information to the dropdown. And we're going to do that with a for each. We're going to go row by row and then essentially populate the value and the text contents. And then we're going to append the child, which is the option here, every single time to create that dropdown. So really what we can do is just copy this and tailor it and reuse it. So we don't want this. We'll just call this FF. And then we need to change it down here, FF. And we're not running the demo. We're using this data. So this should be FF. And our drop down, this is where I told us to remember, and of course I forgot what it was, comp functional family. So this is going to be comp functional family, which is the idea of where we're going to put this stuff. And then everything else should be good. Nope, we're missing a closing parentheses and a semicolon. And we're missing a curly bracket to close out the function. Well, I really messed that up. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. So now we could save this. Let's go up here and make sure it's being called. It sure is. And let's go back over to our page here, and we should have something populated right here if we did everything good. Okay, a little spinner's going on. Should be loaded, and yep, and there it is. So now we could do the same exact thing with our job levels, our states, and our employee numbers. But first, what I would like to do is, well, I guess we can do that. Let's add in, instead of creating this again, let's just use this comp functional family and this to then populate everything else, those other fields. So instead of doing this again and then again and again for 3 more times, we're just going to use what we have here. And this is how we're going to consolidate this down into one function. So let's go back over here to our get comp functional data, which is over here. Now, you see that we have this. Let's just grab another one of these. And because we have the variables needed for this, and all we're returning is this. But remember, with JavaScript, a function can only return one thing. So we couldn't actually just add on to this, as you'll see, but we can do something different. So this isn't going to be job title. Let's call this job level. And we'll change all of our items over here to job level. Job level. Okay, I should have one more. Yep, and right here, job level. Okay, so now it's not going to be J1, JJ, or J, so let's go find out what it's going to be. It's going to be AD. So this is going to be AD1. I guess I could have just looked at that and added one, but whatever. And then once it gets those values, then we need to find the last. We need to filter it by a string, find that length, and then we go back to our web app data, and then it's going to be row 2, but not row 10. This should be 30, because if that's 29, we need to go over one more to the right, which would be column 30. And then we need to go down however many this returned. And then, of course, subtract 1 to get rid of the headers, and then get values. Now, we need to return this also. We need this function here to return that. Now, we can't actually do this. And if you've watched some of my previous videos, we overcame this, and I hope you're picking up on it. If we were to save this and then come back here and try and run this, these things would work. But then see how all families has this weird little thing here and nothing on our job level? Well, obviously nothing on our job level, but do you see what happened with the functional families? You can't return multiple values. But what you can do is return an array. So what we could do is we could take both these variables and put it into an array. And then to access these, this would be 0 and that would be 1. So now what we can do is actually come back over here to our JavaScript, and since this is coming here, we can come down to that function, which is right here. Now, instead of it receiving one variable here, it's receiving that array of variables. So what we could do is, instead of having this called here, we need to drill into that array at the 0 index. And what this allows us to do is this allows us to take this. Well, first let's create a constant for the job level. Let's go comp level, comp job level, drop down. Let's see what that actually is called. Comp job level, okay. And that is going to be equal to our document dot get element by ID, and that ID is going to be comp job level. So we're already running a for each for our FF0, which is that first one that we did. So now what we need to do is run a for each for our job level. Now, instead of 0, we are wanting to use 1, because 1 is that variable. And then we're not wanting to do this comp FF, we're wanting to do the comp job level. So now let's save this and see if we have any typos. So now we can come over here and see all of our families. And now it also populated all of our job levels. So we can do the same thing to states. Let's do the same thing to our states and our employee numbers. The same exact way, just to make sure that we kind of drill it in, because what we can do is we can take all of this, and instead of calling multiple functions, we can just call one function and get rid of all this. Because the more functions that you call, the slower your performance will be. And although it's theoretically you can pass any number of arguments to a function. Like we've done before, you could pass, this could receive another variable and another argument and whatnot. But every argument also slows down performance, to where if you just put everything into an array and then access the array that you need, it helps quite a bit. Okay, so let's go do our state and so we'll do state and employee number. Okay, so this is not going to be job level. This is going to be state. Let's change this here real quick. This will be state, and then this will be state. This will be state. Now remember, the problem with, not really a problem, but it's something that you definitely have to watch out for, is when you copy and paste, you've got to make sure you change everything. So now let's find out where our state is. Come over here. Our state appears to be H, and that is going to be 8. So now we just simply tailor what we copied. And that should take care of it. And then what we're going to need to do is call that in our array that we are returning. And then this is going to be, let's just do imp num. Now our imp num is going to be a little bit different because our imp num doesn't exist on this web app data. So we're going to have to change that and go over to where it is contained. And that is going to be contained in our employee data, our employee full data. So what we can do, now we're not going to need to filter anything yet. We just need to get that. So let's come back over here and figure out exactly where that information is in. We're not going to be in here anymore. We're going to be in our employee data. And our employee data is right here. So it's going to be row 3, column C. So this is going to be C. That's going to be C, and then that's going to be 3. And then we need to simply just return this in our array. Okay, that looks good. So now we can come back over here to our total rewards and then essentially carry on with what we were doing here. So this is going to be, we're going to need 2 more variables to call. Okay, so this is in job level. This is going to be state. And this isn't going to be comp level. This is going to be imp number. Now let's find the values for that. That's going to be comp state, and that's employee number. Okay. So this is going to be employee number num, and this is just simply going to be state. Okay, good. So we got that. Now what we can do is simply grab this, copy and paste, and this is going to be 2. And it's not going to be comp job level, it's going to be comp state. That should be good. And this is going to be 3, and this is going to be comp imp num. Okay, so good. So let's save this. And then let's come back over here to our page and see what we got. So, okay, nothing. So let's see what we did here. Employee number, comp state drop down, imp number. Okay, that's good. That's good. We got FF. It's fine. So let's go back over here to our analytics and see if we did anything wrong here. 28C employee full. Let's log this out here real quick. So what I would like to do is log this and see how it's actually coming over to us. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So let's run this and see what we got. Okay, employee full data is not arranged. So let's find out what is going on there. So employee full data, get range, employee number last row. Let's see what it's pulling from here. because it should have access to it. So yeah, so it's not liking this employee full data. Oh, I see. Duh. So the reason I said duh is because the employee full data is an array. So when we come back over here, you'll see employee full data is actually an array. We need to access this sheet. That's what's going on here. So now let's scroll back down here. This isn't employee full data. It's the sheet. Now we'll save it. We'll run it. There we go. Okay, log is not a function. Okay, we won't get that. So won't we worry about that? Okay, so now we have the employee number. And these are all of our employee numbers. Should go up to 500. Yep. Okay, good. So this piece, let's delete this and let's do a test variable just to see how this is coming across. And then we'll log that test and see how that is actually going to be coming to us. So you'll see it's coming to us as a multi-dimensional array that we just simply need to access through 0, 1. That's why 0, 1, 2, 3 works. So let's now get rid of this and let's put this back to return. And now that we fixed this sheet thing, it should work just fine. So let's come back over here to our page. Let it load. And there we go. There's our job family, our job level, all of our states to include our international, and all of our employee numbers all the way down to 500. Let's make sure it goes all the way down to 500 and ends. Perfect. So now we've dynamically created that way of populating our dropdowns. But more importantly, what we did was we created a way to only have one function do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video here and I'm going to consolidate the rest of these into one function. And then the next video, what we will do is we will then work on how to jump into our, come up here to our piece, how to actually get in here to our filters to create those filtered versions based on those 4 drop-down boxes that we got. So we're going to need to get into this, and then instead of simply, what we're essentially going to do is just add more if statements here, and then that will allow us to filter down by those instances as well. So I hope this has been informative. If it has, please hit that subscribe button. And if you do have any other questions or would like to see us put something else together, please let us know. Our email is in that description box. And until next time, please take care.